29th Committee of the Whole meeting. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Balestria.
Present.
Mr. DeJohn.
Here.
Mr. Mano.
Here.
Mr. Minor.
Here.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Here.
Mrs. Snyder.
Here.
Ms. Tobin.
Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The purpose of this meeting this evening is to discuss the purchase of a new ladder truck for the Mayfield Heights Fire Department. We have Chief Elliott here this evening to go over some of the information where we can ask questions when he's done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Madam President, and members of council for giving us this time before the council meeting to talk about an important purchase, not only for the fire department, but for the residents of this community. With me tonight, I also have Captain Mike Goodwin. He's on our apparatus committee, and he also takes care of all our vehicle maintenance, and he's been doing that for many years and has done a fine job with that. And Matt Horniak, he's a firefighter. Matt also is on the apparatus committee, and later on in the presentation, I have a couple slides that really kind of dig deep into the apparatus committee and some of the jobs that they did to prepare for this today. So as Madam President alluded to, the purpose of this meeting is to talk about the replacement of our current ladder truck. Its number is 521. It's a 2001 E1 truck. And also look for a recommended purchase for a new Pierce manufacturing aerial device from Atlantic Emergency Solutions. So we'll go into each of these in detail throughout the presentation. So our current ladder truck is a 2001 E1 straight stick ladder truck. It's served the community well. It's still in service. It still does a fine job for us. It has a 1,500 gallon per minute pump on it, and it holds about 500 gallons of water. So one of the reasons we need to start thinking about the replacement of this vehicle is basically due to its age. So fire apparatus is over 25 years old, no longer meet the NFPA compliance standards. And also you also lose a lot of your safety, from the cab, the airbags, crash ratings, and all those types of things as well. We're all experiencing these long build times and turnaround times on these vehicles. So we've heard horror stories about this process, that it could take up to 3 to 4 years once you place an order before you can take delivery of these. So we're just trying to be a little bit proactive while the truck is still in good service, and start thinking about moving forward on a replacement for this unit. I mentioned about the safety components. The modern fire apparatuses have really done a good job at protecting the crews inside. And, I just want to make this known that vehicle crashes account for the second largest share of firefighter deaths. So, it's very important that we have, vehicles that protect us, especially when you're dealing with that much weight and traveling like we do, to get to an emergency. Having a 25-year-old truck just doesn't have the same safety devices that a current truck would. So, that's an important part. And then, we're starting to get to a point now where there's quite a bit of repairs that need to be made just to make this truck, better in service, and start replacing some of the parts on it. Captain Goodwin could speak a little bit more on that when we get to that. We just don't want to start dumping a lot of money into something that we're going to be selling in a few years. So we've been trying to hold off on some of the significant repairs that we can until we could figure out what we're going to be doing on our next step. So Captain Goodwin says we if we don't move forward on this, we have at least about $20,000 in repairs that we're going to have to make to this truck just to keep it up to standards and safe and in operation. I mentioned the NFPA standards. I don't want to get into each and every one of these. I'm just letting you know that fire trucks, when they're built and designed and the maintenance of them, we all have to comply with the NFPA standards on that. A lot of the things that we do in our world, we follow these standards. And there's quite a few of these standards that talk about, the maintenance and, the testing and where extinguishers should be. They get really into the weeds on the standards of these things. But this standard here, I want you to take a quick look at. This is the standard from 1911, and it basically says that apparatuses that are not manufactured to the NFPA standards or that are over 25 years old should be replaced. And we've kind of held true to that. We came to you guys several years ago for a fire truck that had 25 plus years on, and we were able to get that replaced. And they do have a system in place where they do make a recommendation that trucks, sit for 15 years front line, and then they get put into a reserve spot for another 10 years, and they start, and that kind of keeps a fresh, your front line being a little bit more fresh and new. Obviously, with the ladder truck, we just don't have the capabilities nor the monies to be able to have a reserve. So our current ladder truck has been in front line for nearly 25 years now. And but we will need to be, it won't be NFPA compliant here in just a few years. Just some real quick pictures of our current ladder truck. Like as I said, this is still in service. It's in our bays right now, ready to go and respond if called upon. We take a lot of pride in making sure our vehicles are in service, looking good. Mike does a tremendous job at making sure that things are maintained and looking good and that it's going to, be ready to go when called upon. It's starting to get a little bit of body damage there. You see in the bottom right-hand corner, there's some corrosion issues. There's various spots like that throughout the truck, but all in all, the truck is still, it still works and it's still serving the community. So I want to talk a little bit about the replacement process and the things that, we go to. Some of this will be not new for some of you, but some of the council members that may not have been here very long may not understand the process. And I explained this to Mrs. Talbin prior to this meeting as well. So the first thing we need to do is determine a need. We do this from a suggested replacement schedule, or just due to, if a vehicle was involved in an accident or has significant mechanical issues beyond repair. But right around 2015, I made a recommended vehicle replacement schedule. And I tried to hold true to that schedule because it does keep our vehicles kind of replaced in an orderly fashion, systematic, and spreads out cost over time. The last thing I want to do is come to council and tell you guys I need a fire engine, a new squad, and a ladder truck in the same year. That's just not a proper way to manage resources and funding. So we tried to come up with this replacement schedule, and it's worked out very well for us over the years. The aerial device that we're looking at is a planned scheduled replacement due to its age and the NFPA compliant concerns. This is just a snapshot of the timeline that I keep up. You could see I have it set out for about 10 years, and I update it every year. And the yellow is the years that we look to replace things. Like I said, this isn't something that we hold in stone. It does have to be tweaked from time to time depending on mechanical issues or things such as that, or if a car was involved in an accident, which happened last year, we had to move some things around a little bit. But you could see in 2025, This was set for replacement anyways. But due to some of the concerns we have with long build-out times, we got moving on this a little bit earlier. So that's why we're here today. So as previously discussed, we just first determined the need. Okay, so in the past few years, when we have discussions with the mayor and finance director in our budget meetings, we talk about these types of things. With the fire truck that we bought a few years ago, that was something that we were kind of this, hey, by the way, in a couple years we're going to need to do this, and we've been having these types of conversations. The next step is to obtain budgetary and official approval from the mayor's office just to move forward in this process. So we've had these discussions with him, and then also went to the finance director to see what we can do to seek and request initial funding options for this particular purchase. So I'm sure you guys will probably have some questions for Ms. Gully here in a little bit, but a few years ago, you might recall that I had a meeting with Ms. Fagan, and we put together a capital improvement fund. And so half of our EMS billing monies went into this fund, and that really did help us out in regards to purchasing some of these vehicles. Our vehicles, unfortunately, are not cheap. I was talking with Dana today, and the cost of these vehicles, I know they are just going through the roof. A new squad, back in 2011, when I got this job, was $175,000, and they're going to be up to $300,000. A fire truck is going to be close to $1 million, and we just bought that one, a few years ago for, I think 5.5, $500,000, $600,000, and same with the ladder trucks. Everything's just through the roof. But this capital improvement fund has really done a good job at helping us prepare for some of these bigger purchases from our SUVs and some of these types of things. So I'm sure Ms. Scully will have more to add on that when you guys have some questions at the end. And then I put together an apparatus committee. And you'll see on the next slide, we kind of talk a little bit about what this committee does. And then the committee does meet with me to discuss their findings, and they make a recommendation. And then generally speaking, I will come to this body or the safety committee meeting and look for a recommendation. If we're talking about a car, we may not always do that because that's something we replace pretty frequently. But if it's a rescue squad or a fire truck, we've always come to a safety committee and just talk to you about the need and put together a very similar presentation. But due to the magnitude of the cost involved in this, I thought it was a little bit more imperative that we have a larger body here so we could explain it and answer any questions together instead of having meetings and a bunch of different emails going back. So that's why I thought the committee of the whole might be a good option for this today. And the last thing is to request legislation from City Council to move forward with the purchase. So really that's in a nutshell the process that we go through to make a purchase like this. There's a lot of work that goes involved in it. We don't just come shooting from the hip on it. We put a lot of work into it. So I mentioned the apparatus committee. So this apparatus committee has been together for a while. As I mentioned, we got Captain Mike Goodwin, we got firefighters Matt Horniak, Rob Bambrick, and Alex Brockway. All these members were chosen for a reason. Number one, they've been on previous committees to purchase vehicles. They have a strong mechanical aptitude, especially with fire apparatuses. Some of these guys know these fire trucks like the back of their hand, much more than I do. They're out there out in a job, and they're just, they love fire trucks, and so they have us really into this type of stuff. So, we put this committee together to be a diverse group too. We don't want just a bunch of officers, so we don't want a bunch of firefighters. We want kind of a diverse group put together, both firefighters and officers, to make good decisions for our department. And it's important to me, to ask those who work with these apparatus on a constant basis what they want. So, I'm not on the fire trucks, I'm not driving them, I'm not doing it on a day-to-day, but these guys are. So, it's important that you put together a good group to evaluate the different vehicles and come up with a suggestion on purchase. And most of these guys have previous work experience. Not everybody just works here. Some guys will work on other departments. I believe Matt even helped purchase another trucks in another community that he worked for back in the day. So these guys have experiences not just with here, but with other departments that they worked for. So the committee looked at several manufacturers, including Pierce, Sutphen, and E1. Was there any more? Those were those. What's that?
Those three the closest.
Okay, so these are the three that we looked at, that they looked at the closest. Quite frankly, there's not a lot. There's only a few other manufacturers, but they're not really that popular in our region. So these manufacturers are all scattered throughout the county and Northeast Ohio. They went out and put the time in to visit these departments. They spoke with the fire chiefs. They talked to the mechanics. They talked to the line personnel, and they really did pick their brains on the pluses and minuses to what the ladder truck that they experienced. The committee worked together to really determine the best needs for the department as well as what would best serve our community. It's not just about looking at one piece of apparatus. You have to look at what's the makeup of your community and what's the likeliness of certain things that you might have to do to, for example, like in a rescue situation. We have a lot of seniors here. We have a lot of high rises here. So our situation might be different than another community that just has a bunch of single family, homes type of thing. So this committee worked together, and they worked together for, was it about a year or so? Something like that. And they really made a good presentation to me, and they suggested that we go forth and make a recommendation with a 100-foot platform from Pierce Manufacturing. And the dealer is Atlantic Emergency Solutions. They're the dealer that would be supplying it to us. So why Pierce? Well, Pierce has been in business for a heck of a long time. They started in 1913. I got a lot of this information from the website, so I did some research on it as well. The first fire truck was in 1939, so they've been doing this quite a while. They started making snorkel bodies in 1958. We actually had one here back in when I started in 93. And they had their first aerial platform in 91. The thing that was really shocking to me is Pierce has 80% of the aerial device market right now. So a lot of these other manufacturers, they might only make a few trucks a year. Pierce is really pushing out these vehicles on a regular basis, and they have 80% of the entire aerial ladder truck market. And then one of the things that these guys really stressed to me was just the quality of the product, the stability while in the platform. They were in a couple of these trucks, and they got 100 feet in the air, and you just feel like you're on a Tinker toy. It didn't feel very stable. And they said that the Pierce really, the quality was there, the stability was there, and one of the biggest things too, they had one of the quickest build times of all the manufacturers they looked at, and that's because they're pushing out 80% of the market. So we may not have to wait 4 and 5 years for this. We might be able to get this in 2 to 3 years. Some of you that might have been around here for a while might remember we had a Pierce fire truck when I started here in 1989, or when I started in 93. We had an 89 Pierce truck, and so Mayfield Heights does have a history of this manufacturer. We ended up getting rid of it when we bought some of the other stuff, but we've had some experiences with this manufacturer. In talking to the sales rep and talking to the crew, there's just a few of the area departments that have this, what we're looking at, or they have on order. And so you could see that there's quite a few local municipalities that have this vehicle that we're looking at. And of course, there's something that really rings well for Mike, I know, is the vehicle service. Like when something goes wrong with it, are we going to be able to get it fixed? And the customer service when you call if there's something wrong. That's something that the committee looked at as well. So I wanted to take a minute to talk a little bit about a platform versus a straight stick. You know, because I guarantee you somebody's probably thinking, why are we changing? You know, I'm not going to speak, say it was a bad decision, but, you know, back in 2000 when we got the straight stick, you know, Chief Fort was adamant that we had to have a straight stick. There was a number of people on our department that didn't think that was the best thing for the community. But he was, you know, his dad worked in Cleveland. It's kind of an old school type device, and he was really, really adamant about having a straight stick. So that's how we ended up with a straight stick. I know Mr. Mano was in those discussions at the safety committee meeting at that time, and he probably heard the same kind of presentation of why we need a straight stick. But really, a straight stick is really more for fire operations than it is for serving as rescue. You know, we're not putting a straight stick up 100 feet in the air and pulling out a 90-year-old and walking them down a stick. It's just not going to happen. It does well for getting to an area, but as for rescue operations, it's not the best suited for that purpose. They are pretty well suited if you have those big 3-story homes like they do in Cleveland Heights or Shaker Heights, where some of our ground ladders may not be able to even reach the roof line. A straight stick ladder might be perfectly suitable for that, or quick access to commercial properties. I'm not sitting there saying that the straight stick is a useless piece of equipment. By far, it's not. But what we're looking for is something that gives us, you know, the best rescue operations and the safest working environment for our firefighters. A couple of things too, just to note: when we have a straight stick and we had to put it 100 feet in the air, that's all done from the ground, from the back of the unit. So it has to get put up and it has to get set and stabilized before crews can climb it. That takes a long time. And then once you climb it, you got crews, you get firefighters. If you ever climbed a 100-foot stairs without stopping, you know, you're exhausted by the time you get to the top, and then you haven't even done any firefighting work yet. So, you know, so it is very labor intensive. It is a lot of work, and it does time delay in setting that up. And if a rescue is being conducted, you know, if you have several residents that need to come down, it's not wide enough to have two-way traffic. So one has to come down before another one can go up, and those types of things. So in other words, I want you to know the straight stick is good for firefighting operations. It's not so good with performing rescue operations. So the nice thing about a platform, I said 3 firefighters, really it should be 4. We could have 4 firefighters in a platform at one time. So you got crews as soon as you put it in park, you could get 3 or 4 guys in that platform, and the guys in the platform are controlling where it goes. It's not the guy on the ground looking up 100 feet and trying to determine how far away from the building he is. It's the crews up there looking over the edge and be able to get it to an inch, a half inch from the building if need be. So the timing that it takes to set up this vehicle and get people rescued is unbelievable. There's some videos that I'm going to show you here in a second, but that's the nice thing about it. We could have 2 to 3 firefighters, up to 4 in it at one time. If we had to do rescue, we could rescue several people at one time and get them down. I want to stress again that this is a piece of equipment that it could be used for rescue operations, and also it could perform the same type of operations as a straight stick. It's a 2,000 gallon a minute truck, so it could put out a lot of fire. It could set up very, very quickly. If we were at a large commercial property that was, and we were at defensive operations, crews could work from the bucket more safely than they would on a straight stick. One of the things too I like about this, that it has two nozzles up there in the bucket. Most of them have a fog nozzle and a straight tip. So it's much more versatile than just a single nozzle that we have on our current ladder. And then the gallons per minute is 2,000 compared to our 1,500 gallon a minute. So if you did have to do the surround and drown or to spray a lot of water on a commercial property, we're getting much more water and doing a much better job at containing the fire or putting the fire out. So a little bit about the Pierce aerial. I wanted to show you here what it looks like. This is only a 2-minute video, and it will kind of show you what it looks like in operation.
If it makes firefighters safer and more effective, we find a way to build it. The Ascendant 100-foot heavy-duty aerial tower is here. With more agile length, weight-optimized design, and easier positioning. Go safely with maximum drivability and visibility. Go boldly with shorter overall length and height. From the industry's most rapid setup with integrated ground pads to best-in-class below-grade operation in scrub, the Ascendant 100-foot aerial tower maximizes agility and reach. Get the capacity to respond with the flexibility to perform. No comparing. No complicating. Refuse to compromise with the unmatched, unrivaled Pierce Ascendant 100-foot heavy-duty aerial tower.
So that was a quick video, and you can kind of see some of how it operates and how it looks, and you know, they talked a couple things about firefighter safety and quick setup. Those are all things that mean a lot to me. Nothing's more important than making sure our firefighters are going home to their families every day. And working out of a bucket on a platform is a much safer working environment to working at a tip of a 100-foot ladder with 12-inch sides on it. And when the wind's blowing and gusty, it could be very hairy at times, but the bucket truck like this is a much safer working environment. I just wanted to share, Captain Goodwin shared some of these pictures with me, just pictures of other trucks, and I just thought they were pretty neat, and I wanted to kind of share them with you on what the truck looks like, and you can see how it does operate below grade on a truck. It's also a mid-mount, which means that that it's mounted in the middle of the truck instead of, a lot of them are in the rear. The mid-mounts are really the way to go and very versatile in those regards. Also, the thing that the committee really liked about this truck as well is there's no overhangs. So there's no rear overhang and there's nothing protruding over the front of the cab. you know, when you're driving, sometimes you forget about these types of things and you have to count for them. But this truck, everything is within the body of the truck, which is important when it comes to driving and maneuverability amongst our streets. Just a couple more photos. I'm going to go through these pretty quick, but and I just think it's a neat looking truck, and I'm really happy with the decision they made. Again, a couple, just a real breeze through here a little bit. Again, some of the features, it's a 2,000 gallon a minute truck, dual monitors, 100 foot. You know, it has a short wheelbase, so there's less tail swing. Everything's contained within a truck, as I mentioned. Quick setup time, works below grade. One of the things too is it has rear steer a little bit, so as the driver's turning, the rear axle kind of turns to account for some of the, so it's you're not wearing the tires down like we do. We're going through tires pretty frequently on our ladder truck because the concrete just tears them up. But this actually kind of turns with the truck a little bit, which was something that the committee thought was a good thing as well. The crash protection, the airbags, that was all good things. They all have that now. And then they would come out and give us formal training when we're following the delivery of it. So that would get all our crews up to speed and how to operate that. So now you're wondering about the cost, you know. I kind of held off on that. I talked a little bit about some other things, but the cost of this truck is $2.2 million. That's the standard rate of aerial trucks. These guys priced out all the different ones. They're all roughly in this ballpark. So it's not like this is like the cream of the crop, the best of the best in a way of pricing. Actually, there was trucks that were more money, but they were all for this type of truck, a platform. They were all plus $2 million, weren't they? So that cost is based on I talked to the sales rep a couple times. So that's based on Sourcewell, which we have used in the past. You know, I think the service department used some Sourcewell. You know, it's like it's a flat fee as compared to using the state of Ohio's thing that uses a percentage. So by using Sourcewell, we would save about $9,000 by using that. That price that you see right there is the price, and it would be held true to that as soon as the contract's signed. So if it took us 3 years to get the truck, we're not going to see a substantial increase on that. When we sign the contract, when the mayor signs the contract for it, that will be the price of the truck. So there will be no increase on that. So the dealer that the guys talked to is Atlantic. They have two stock units. They always have two stock units kind of in production, and they have one ready for delivery in February of 27 and another one in May of 27. By moving on this process a little bit quickly here, we can potentially grab one of these two units. So a delay in this process could delay for much longer than, you know, like up to 50 months total. And there's about an average cost of 5% a year just in general. But there also is some emissions changes coming up at the end of the year. And it's been estimated, around 300,000 of an increase with. It could be up to $300,000 more with some of these emissions that are coming with some of the trucks. So, but in general, they've been going up about 5% a year. So we are hoping to really take advantage and take advantage of one of these two units that they're already in production and being made, and that would be that $2.2 million up there. As I said, there is no price increase. The only way there would be a price increase if there was a change order made to something that was special and above and beyond. But the truck itself, it's a stock unit. It's already being fabricated as we speak, and there would be no price increase to that. I don't think this is something that I'm suggesting, but I'm trying to be transparent as possible. But they did offer a discount of about $133,000 if we paid for it up front. And talking with Dana, I'm sure we don't have $2.2 million sitting around, but I'm just being transparent that there is a discount if it was paid up front. But I'm sure that won't be the case, but I'm sharing that information. There would be no money down needed for it. There would be no invoice until we took delivery of the apparatus. And then what we would do with the old ladder truck? Well, there's not a lot we can do with it, really. We could sell it on GovDeals. I've looked into it. I've heard anywhere between $20,000 and $120,000 we can get for it. A lot of times with GovDeals and those types of things, you're kind of playing rolling dice and hoping for luck and hoping that you're finding somebody that needs a truck at that particular time. But I just talked to a salesman who said that it was locked at $20,000, and all of a sudden by the time it closed, there was a lot of activity, and they got about $120,000 for their truck. I have no idea what we would get for it, but it could be anywhere between that. Another option is to use to do kind of the same principle as CarMax, to where we would actually sell. They would give us an evaluation and give us a quote on buying it. We would sell it to Brindley Mountain was one of the. It's like a fire truck wholesaler type thing. They would buy it from us, and then they would refurbish it and do some things, and they would sell it to a different community. So that's another option as to what to do with it. And then, there is no really trade value. It's not like a car where we could just trade it in, especially when you're switching different manufacturers and different, they really have no probably interest in taking a 25-year-old E1 at a Pierce dealership. So there's no trade value, or you can donate it. Those are basically our options, what to do with the old one. But obviously we have time. That's not something we have to determine today or tomorrow. So just a couple closing remarks, and I'll give the Mike and Matt a chance to add anything that they wanted to add in their findings and doing some things or questions that you might have. But I just want to kind of say that I feel like our apparatus committee did an outstanding job. They did their homework. They truly care about the decision to serve the community, what's going to serve the community the best. When we're looking at the makeup of our community, we have a lot of apartment buildings. We have a lot of seniors in our city. We have senior buildings that these people can't even hardly get out of their apartments on a normal fire alarm. We need an apparatus that we can do the best that we can to protect the community, and the platform that they chose, I think, would do this. These guys have been at it, and I really want to thank them for their work that they did and the time they spent away looking at this stuff to really make a decision on that. This apparatus, we're definitely looking to hopefully serve the community for 25 plus years. So that's always the goal. When we're looking at that, and so I then and respectively asking the committee to really consider this, and I would like to try to get moving on this if we feel comfortable with it, so we can at least get the process moving, so we could lock in one of these trucks before we get additional cost, involved in it. And then I'm sure you guys have some questions that Dana can answer. Guys, do you have anything you would like to add?
No, I think you hit most of the high points. Great job.
But if you have any specific questions about some of the things that they did, they could definitely come up and speak on that. So open up the floor for any questions for myself, Dana, or the committee.
Slater.
Mr. Mano.
As usual, Chief, you've done a superb job of explanation and presentation. And indeed, I was involved in the purchase of the current truck. And this process has come a long way, informational-wise and everything else. It's been a very well-done situation. I'm sold on this apparatus. The last time we did this, the fight was over the ladder and the platform. And at that point, we were trying to do a deal with Lyndhurst, sharing costs and so on. So the thing is, though, that the amount of information on both vehicles was never presented to us this way. So I think you've made a great case for this, and I, for one, support it 100%.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Balistreo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would, Chief, echo Mr. Romano's comments. It's quite comprehensive report and presentation, and kudos to you and to Mike and the staff for the presentation. As a member of the Safety Committee, I know Ms. Talbin is the chief, and I'm the member, but I'll speak for myself, and I don't want to speak for her, but we would highly make a recommendation to council from the Safety Committee for the purchase of the ladder truck. But Chief, I had a couple questions. I know you talked about 100-foot reach for the platform, and the question I would have is, at what level does that reach the Drake or Gates Mills Towers in the city? I know we've been asked that question before, and is it the same length of ladder as a current truck, or is this more? And at what
It isn't.
what floor?
We're restricted with both apparatus. You can only reach so high.
Right.
Now, the Drake is completely covered. It'd be hard pressed not to be able to get to the Drake unless it was on the backside in the wall.
Mike, can you use the microphone?
Yeah. The Drake is pretty accessible. It may not be from the side of the fire, it might be on the opposite side, but we can access that height from anywhere. Gates Mills Towers, no, you're simply out of reach. You can only get so high.
Are you like a
And
couple
with-
floors short on?
No, we're not even close. I
Not even
it's-
close.
It's 150 feet.
What is there? 14 floors?
There's 14 floors. It's probably 150 feet, so you're restricted.
Probably
as it is.
5
The
floors,
good
it
news
won't be
is that
12.
that's a fireproof building, so it's all concrete, compartmentalized. We obviously need to have the reach, and we may be able to, affect those rescues from a lower floor if we can get the people down to a certain level. It also has more uses in rescue. It's good for firefighting. It's good for all these commercial stores. Storefront fire, you saw how that truck operated below grade. Well, we can't do that with our ladder truck, so that's another strong point. A straight stick ladder is great on a residential, single story, or even a 2 stories, single family home, but it's for fire. At that point, it's for firefighting. It's to put a fire out that got too far ahead of us, or we weren't notified early enough.
Right.
So we're not really making rescues with that. And like the chief pointed out, it's very difficult to make a rescue with anybody, even if they're young and able-bodied, to get them down that ladder.
Is it two-way on this ladder? I mean,
It's
could
not,
you?
no, but you operate from that bucket, so you could pick people up and bring them right to the ground and go right back up.
Okay.
So it would be
Mr. Mayor, I have
pretty
one more
speedy.
question, if I could. Chief, you said that this is 25-plus years, and I know in the past we have sold or, donated to other departments our previous apparatus. Does that conflict with what you were saying about, that really it doesn't meet the recommendations of the fire protection authorities to still have this type of apparatus in service if we even donate it to another department?
Well, some of these people do refurbish them and do bring them up to standards. Quite frankly, there are a lot of rural communities out there that would be happy to have something like that, even if it doesn't have compliance, because they can't afford, most of the suburbs and stuff, you try to comply to that standard as much as you can, because that is what we tried to do. If somebody gets hurt and you weren't in compliance with it and you knew it, then there could be, it doesn't look good. But we have never donated Well, I think we have sold our trucks before, but we just don't get much to them. I think we sold our old snorkel truck to
Highland Hills?
Highland Hills.
Remember that?
Our old fire truck, they actually, somebody in New York bought it and they were gonna send it over to South America. You know, so there's a lot of those types of agencies that are sending them to third world countries to use. We did donate our rescue squad one time to East Cleveland, but it was a pretty beat up rescue squad. So we generally do try to sell them, but sometimes you just don't really get a whole lot of money.
Yeah, my just concern was
Yeah.
if it doesn't meet the standards for our community and we give it to another community, I mean, that just doesn't look good in terms of liability or
Well,
anything
everybody
like that.
knows that, you know, I mean, it's one of those things, it's not like it's 25 years old and you can't use it anymore. But, you know, we try to conform with the standards. 25 years on a busy community like this, you're just rolling the dice every day. And it's just a good process to go through is you know, you got to just about every 25 years, you know, start looking at a new truck. So, and that thing runs every day. There's not a day that it doesn't respond. So one of those rural communities, it could sit in a garage for a week and never roll the tires. So, but yeah, I mean, it's not an issue for us selling it that it's not in compliance. They know that whoever's buying it.
They're just operating outside of the compliance. And also, there's many departments that are purchasing these vehicles now just to get them through to the 5-year mark where they can get their new truck. They have a truck on order.
Mike, could you speak
but
closer?
They apparently have enough money to put into a used truck as well.
Okay.
I just read an article. They were buying a truck very similar to ours, and I don't know what they paid for it, but they were refurbishing it, and they expected to get 5 years out of it while they were building their new truck.
Okay. Thanks, fellas.
But they're operating without a truck right now.
You know, and just to really answer another question that you had earlier too about some of like Gates Mills Towers, we can't even get around to the back of the building at all, not even with anything because of the parking garages. And the further you get away from the building, the less reach you have.
Right.
So if we could get right up to the building, we could get up 10 stories, you know, pretty easily. But the further you get back, if you're 20 feet from the building, now you just took away a couple floors. You know, they call it scrub area, you know. So, you know, every building has those concerns, and we kind of know where some of our limitations are. Some buildings are better than others, but some of our, like Mike was saying, like Gates Mills Towers is not at least my concern, but that one is built to withstand fire. It's got sprinklers. It's the smaller buildings, you know, like the Wynwood Apartments or, you know, some of the smaller ones, Drury or something like that may not be as, you know, built with the same fire resistant construction, you know, and we could get some of those a little bit better, so.
Okay. Thanks, Chief.
I have a couple questions for you,
Yes, ma'am.
Chief. First, I want to thank Mike and Matt and you. Great presentation, really informative, and was really presented well to us. I do have a question about, are there any grants out there that can help with the cost? And
So there have been some grants over the years. Most with grants, I mean, we haven't been successful in getting an AFG grant in several years now. You know, they kind of go through cycles where, you know, we got air packs one year, we got a new compressor 3-4 years ago, but we really haven't gotten anything. So you can't wait around for grants, and quite frankly, with vehicles, it's a little bit different. You know, the federal government's not going to come up with $2 million for us. We're lucky to get $50,000. I honestly think that we're not in a financial situation compared to some other communities like, you know, East Cleveland or somebody like that, you know, have more money concerns. I think they get more priorities on some of the grant fundings for things such as that than some of the, you know, suburbs that are maybe a little bit better. But, I mean, we always explore. We apply for grants every year, you know, the same ones. And you know, some years we get it, but we haven't been successful in the last few years. So sometimes there's just less money, and they're just more stingy on the awards. So.
And then I also, it said that it does not include equipment or mounting the equipment. What does that typically cost?
Well, we don't know. Maybe Mike might know. So that truck will come completely empty. It will not have hose. It won't have, but we'll have to get our equipment in that truck. So they have fabricators that will fabricate the compartments on how we want our air packs mounted, how we want our Jaws of Life mounted. We just don't throw them in there. We have to have them a little fabricated. And we'll have to evaluate where we are in 2 years of what we might need for it. So that would be something additional if you know, but I'm hoping that the sale of I talked to Dana today, I was hoping that the sale of the old truck would pay for a lot of that stuff that we might have to encumber with some equipment or the mounting of some of the things. But we're not talking, you know, a fortune. I mean, you know, we have equipment on a truck now. Most of it would be serviceable and able to be put on there, but we would have to, the doors are different, the compartments are different. You know, so we can't just take the mounting stuff out of there and put it in there. And plus, it's a brand-new truck. We want to make sure that the fit and finish is, you know, organized and looking good. But that'll be a couple years down the road, though. Yeah.
Again, to elaborate a little bit more on that question, as far as per NFPA, again, it comes with a whole complementary of all of its ladders, including all ground ladders and everything. So that when that truck rolls out, it meets NFPA standard as a ladder truck, if that makes sense. So we will have all of our ground ladders brand new in their spot on that truck. Now, some of the miscellaneous equipment is, I think, what we're maybe talking about, and some of that will get retroed from our current 521 over to the new 521. And so we try and make that work the best we can. As long as it's something that's not totally outdated, we don't want to put that on a brand-new truck. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks,
And
Matt, I forgot it.
Finally, I guess one of the most important questions would be for Mrs. Scully.
That was next.
We have four
I heard
minutes.
that, Mayor.
And if we can, would it be something where in the next few years that the fire department budgets for when they go out for their yearly budget?
Yeah, so as Chief mentioned, we talked earlier, and looking in the capital, their fire capital improvement fund, currently there's about $1.4 million in there right now for it. We do have a squad coming in, probably early 25, which we approved a couple years ago. So that PO is about $270,000. We budget extremely conservatively on the revenue side of what estimated EMS fees will be. So in 2026, 2027, we may need, again, because we budget so conservatively on the revenue side, about $400,000. So that could be part of our capital money or some public improvement money possibly that we can put towards the remaining purchase of the fees. If they continue to outpace where we estimate that they're going to be, we may not need to pool any additional money from any of our other capital areas. So, you know, we would be able to work it into our budget. And on our PO, we are allowed to make the PO saying with future collection of revenue, or in the process of, it says in the process of collecting revenue. So we would be okay making the purchase order now with us not having all of the money in the correct fund to pay for it.
Okay. Thank you.
revenue generated by EMS building annually?
Last year, we had about 490,000.
Well, that was just, we
sorry.
we
No,
generated
900,000.
933,000, but half of that went into the capital improvement fund. So, and that amount has gone up over the years. So, you know, so I was telling Dana, I'm hoping that we could be up over $1 million in revenue generating from the department. You know, even if we made some provisions where we put a little bit more into this capital fund, we would definitely be able to fund it because we have all of 25, all of 26, you know, the rest of 24, and probably some of 27 to continue raising funds.
Thank you. Mr. DeJohn.
Chief, like everyone else, very well done tonight.
Thanks.
What is the difference between the snorkel and a platform? Are they the same or are they different?
A snorkel was an articulating boom, so it had a knuckle right in the middle, so it kind of like, it was like your elbow. So it reached like an elbow. This is a straight, it goes from here and it just goes straight out and up. So it doesn't do this. They don't even make snorkels anymore, less for fire. I mean, they're more for CEI and service department work. It's just not a standard truck that they use anymore.
All right, thank you.
I liked it though. I mean, I had fun with it.
Do you have
Oh, I'm,
Mrs. Sabetta,
I don't have a question, but the reason I don't have a question is because they were all answered in this. You know, this is really wonderful, as you always give us everything we need to make a decision. So I would be on board for the recommendation.
And in closing, thank you. I have had several conversations with Mrs. Talbin on this process and trying to educate her on how things have really need to work. And I know she's reached out to Mr. Murphy, and so I'll continue to reach out with her and share this presentation with her and any documentation I have just to keep her as the chair of the safety committee, apprised of everything. But she was in support of the process, and I just wanted to make that known. So thanks again for your time, and if you have any questions that didn't get answered today, you guys know how to get a hold of me. I'll be more than happy to answer the questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Chief. And Matt and Mike over there for all your help with this.
Great job.
All right. Does any council member have any more questions at all before we wrap it up? We're good? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Belstrea, second by Mrs. Sabetta. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We are now adjourned. Good evening. I would like to welcome everyone to the May 29th council meeting of the City of Mayfield Heights. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Balestria.
Present.
Mr. DeJohn.
Here.
Mr. Mano.
Here.
Mr. Minor.
Here.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Here?
Mrs. Snyder.
Here.
Ms. Tolbin.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is the approval of the minutes from our May 13th council meeting. I hope everyone's had time to read these minutes over. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Sabetta,
Second.
second by Mr. Belstrao. Are there any suggested changes, deletions, or amendments to these minutes? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Mr. DeJohn abstains as he was absent. These minutes have been approved as written. Next, does any member of council have any comments or announcements this evening?
Madam President.
Mr. DeJohn.
I just wanted to let everyone know that the Mayfield Union Cemetery will have a meeting on Monday, June the 3rd at 2:30 at the Mayfield Village Civic Center to review a quote to start rehabbing the cemetery. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or correspondence? I just wanted to say that this past Friday, Karen Arnold, a group of volunteers from Labella Associates, and myself worked on an area within our city by planting flowers outside the entrance of Woodhuck Road. This year's project was to enhance another location in our city, and we chose this particular area. Our beautification committee consists of Matt Medic, Jeremy King, Karen Arnold, and myself. Thanks to the service department for preparing this ground for planting, and please take time to drive by and see our work. Each year, we will pick a new area in the city to enhance and beautify. And thank you to all of those who volunteered their time. We will now move to reports of officers, beginning with Mayor DeSico. Oh, I'm sorry. Department head. No, that goes after you. Yeah. Mayor DeSico.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening. Last meeting, I reported on the shred day. I have the numbers for those collected for the amount of recyclables and hazardous waste collected. We collected over 10,000 pounds of recyclables and 2,300 pounds of hazardous waste. So as was reported, it was very successful. I just didn't have those numbers. We did talk about having another one this year. We cannot book it, unfortunately. They are busy. So we are going to get on the schedule for 2 for next year. The final details for the new Aquatic and Community Center ribbon cutting ceremony are done. You could find those details on our website, but it is going to be June 4th for our residents from 4 to 7. So there is going to be a lot to do that day for residents, so I hope we get a good turnout that day. And I'd like to let people know that they should go to the website and sign up to buy a duck from the police department for the duck race. It is a fundraiser that it's not a real duck, don't worry, that the police department is having a fundraiser for. I encourage residents to go onto the website and sign up and get a duck. There's quite a few left, isn't there, Chief? Yeah. So I encourage everyone to do that. Maybe buy a couple ducks. So, our sidewalk program begins on June 1st. The roads that will be worked on will be, the sidewalks that will be worked on will be on West and East Minor, Kingswood, and Bonnie Lane. We're talking about 60 days or so to get that done. Community Partnership on Aging, which offers so many programs for our residents. There's a couple I'd like to highlight, but I encourage all of our residents, whether you have older parents living in the city, there's all types of programs that can help. There are safety modifications for homeowners over the age of 60. There is a certain income level that you have to meet, $2,430 for a single-person household, or $3,287 for a two-person household. But there's, approved safety devices and disability accommodations to help these people stay at home, stay safe at home. So you can call 440-442-2628 to apply. Then also their CPA offers what is called a Rent-A-Daughter program, and they're offering light house cleaning services to members of our community for assist in laundry, meal prep, light errands, and you can call Jill at 216-848-0592 to register for that. So if you go to communitypartnershipOnaging.org, you can see all these programs, you can sign up for them, or give the city a call. Our CPA representatives are at extension 244, so if anybody needs more information or would like to sign up, find out exactly what each program is about, you can utilize either the website or that phone number. So I encourage everybody to take advantage of the programs for anybody they know that needs them, or for yourself. Most importantly, Mayfield Village is starting road construction on Ridgeberry beginning June 10th and continuing until early August, about 60 days. The most important thing for everybody to remember or know is westbound traffic will be closed on Ridgeberry for that period of time. So avoid Ridgeberry like the plague. So that's what's going to be done, so we just want to warn everybody. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any questions for the mayor? Director of Law, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no report this evening, but I would note the memo that I sent out yesterday regarding 1604 Lander Road and declaring it a nuisance and giving the mayor power to abate that nuisance. I've requested that that be added to the agenda tonight and considered by council. And that's all.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Murphy? Okay, Director of Finance, Mrs. Scully.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to let everybody know that our bonds went out to sale May 14th after our last meeting. We had a successful sale of our bonds, and we will close on those next week. On the agenda tonight is the alternative tax budget request. I sent an email last week. Just as a reminder, this is not our operating budget. We will start that in the fall and come to you with that end of November. This is an instrument required by the ORC to notify the county of our continued needs for property tax revenues. This needs to be adopted by July 15th and sent to them. So I would request if you guys could adopt this before council summer recess. That concludes my report unless there's any questions.
Any questions from council? Thank you. At this time, are there any department directors that would like to give a report? Chief Mealy.
I sent out a memo yesterday via email, just kind of giving an explanation of an issue that's going to come before you at the June 10th meeting. I'm not going to be there, so I wanted to give just a brief explanation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Last year, around this time, you passed a resolution allowing us to purchase camera equipment, license plate readers for 3 of our major intersections along Mayfield Road. During the course of setting that up, we learned that First Energy adopted a new policy that requires us to
meter each one of those locations because they charge at a different rate than they do our regular traffic cameras. Traffic lights. So that's going to require us to put meters at each of those locations and tap into their power. So it's an expensive process. It's pretty complex. We've had a number of companies look at it and turn down the job, not even giving us a quote because of the complexity of the issue. So Signal Service is a company that we regularly use for our intersections, our traffic traffic lights, and so we would make the recommendation of utilizing them to do the electrical work. But if you had any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Captain Paquette will be here on June 10th, but unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town for both of the June meetings, so I'm not going to be here to answer those questions. So if you don't have any questions and you think of something, feel free to reach out to me in the meantime.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the chief at this point? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here this evening that would like to talk? Department heads? You have updates, anything? Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move to reports, committees, commission, and boards, starting with the building committee. Mr. DeJohn?
Thank you, Madam President. I have no report.
Thank you. Finance and Audit Committee, Mr. Minor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do not have a report.
Okay. Thank you. Legislative Committee, Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam President. I have no report.
Thank you. Public Works and Service, Mr. Balstrap.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be attempting, as I stated before, to schedule an evening Public Works and Services Committee meeting within the next week to discuss the AECom report. Also, the contract for the road program is in Resolution 2024-27 this evening. The contract will be awarded to Trimore. I encourage council to approve it this evening, and as the mayor stated, the sidewalk program will be commencing June 1st. And that's my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Balstrap? Mrs. Sabetta.
I was just wondering that while they're working on the streets and the sidewalks, can they look at the signs, the ones that need repair or you can't even read anymore?
The signs, did you say?
Yeah, like the no parking signs. Can they look at them if they need replacement or repair?
I think the service department usually handles that.
And can they do that while they're on the street working?
The Service Department.
Madam Chair? Well, the service department's not working on the street. So I would suggest maybe we do something like, kind of like the road program, divide up the city, take a few streets at a time, and just have the service department go look at this set of streets and see what needs to be replaced until we make a whole, till we look at all the streets. That would be,
Okay.
Good.
Madam President.
Thank you. All right.
Madam President.
Oh, I'm sorry.
M-
Mr. DeJohn.
Mr. Ballestri, I see we have three streets, as the mayor said, East and West Minor and Kingswood. Is that going to use all $200,000 of the
No.
Lane 2.
No,
Bonnie Lane? I'm sorry.
the bid came in about $58,000 under. So as I stated at a previous meeting, if those monies are still available, once the program is near commencing, we'll take a look at adding some additional blocks. I'd rather do it during the course of this year while they're out at 24 concrete prices than try to push that money over into 25 and concrete may be higher. So yeah, we'll do additional work if we have the funds available. I will recommend that to council though.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. Balstrap? Thank you, Mike. Recreation and Parks Committee, Mr. Mano.
Thank you, Madam President. The Aquatic Center opened on Saturday, May 25th for the holiday weekend, and had a great start with approximately 800 in admittance over the 3-day weekend despite spotty weather. The Aquatic Center will be open again this weekend on June 1st and 2nd from 11:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., and the regular season hours begin on Thursday, June 6th. Full details can be found on the website under the Recreation Department pages. The landscaping is finished at the new ADA playground located in front of the Aquatic Center on Marcel Road and is now officially open for use. As the mayor mentioned, we will have a grand opening and dedication of the Aquatic and Community Center on Tuesday, June 4th from 4 to 7 p.m. This is an event for Mayfield Heights residents only. We will have a DJ on the pool deck, giveaways to the first few hundred families while supplies last, and there will be free swimming, food, ice cream, and tattoos. Okay. The junior Cavs will be on hand running a basketball clinic in the gym from 4 to 6. The Mayfield Heights Police Foundation will be holding a duck race at 5 p.m. Ducks can be purchased for $5 through the police department or ACC. Tours of the facility will be available throughout the event. Pre-registration is required. Details can be found on social media and the city's website. The Recreation Department is planning the 24 Unity Days. This year's event will take place on Friday, June 21st, Saturday, June 22nd, featuring fireworks, and will conclude with the parade down Mayfield Road on Sunday, June 23rd. Volunteers are needed. If interested, please contact the Recreation Department or sign up by calling 440-442-2627. The parade is always looking for new participants. If your group is interested in more information on participating in the parade, call 442-2627. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mano. Are there any questions? Sounds like a lot of exciting stuff coming up. Yeah.
I want to add one other thing. The after prom at the Aquatic Center was fantastic. I've talked to a whole bunch of people that were there. Great job. Everybody thoroughly enjoyed themselves. So they're looking forward till next year.
Thank you. We had like 300 kids. It was amazing. And they loved our new facility. It's a lot of work, but it was well worth it. And it did the job. There was nothing crazy and horrible that happened that night to our children. So that's why we do it. So thank you. I just wanted to make a comment about our Memorial Day service. I think it went really well Monday. And kudos to Nick, who puts it together for us. So, all right, we'll move to safety and transportation. Mrs. Talbin's not here this evening, so Mr. Balestre is the member.
No official report. You heard from the chief, and that was part of the safety committee's presentation to present to the whole council as a committee of the whole meeting.
Thank you. Board of Zoning Appeals, Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam President. The Board of Zoning did not meet, so we had no discussion, so no report.
Thank you. And Planning Commission, Mr. Balestrea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Planning Commission met last Monday. The minutes were copied to council. Motion A is on the agenda as a result of that meeting this evening. And the mayor will field any questions regarding motion A, as I was absent from the meeting at that time. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our reports of committees and commissions. We will now move to the public portion. Pursuant to City Code, each person will be allotted 5 minutes to speak, with a maximum of 30 minutes allotted for the entire public portion. If you are here in connection with an agenda item, this is your opportunity to address council. However, please note that this is not an opportunity for debate or slighted comments. If you would like to be heard this evening, please fill out a form located on the table at the public entrance. During the public portion, I will call each person wishing to speak to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record and speak clearly into the microphone. It is now 7:27. I will open up the public portion. Is there anyone that would like to be heard this evening? No one? Okay. I will now close the public portion. 7:27 still. Okay. All right. We will move to resolution number 2024-27. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution number 2024-27, a resolution awarding a contract to Trimore Corp. For the 2024 road resurfacing program in accordance with the bid specifications and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Mano.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Mr. Minor.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Balestria
Second.
and second by Mr. Minor. It was recommended by the city engineer that the Trimore Corp. Is the lowest and best bid for the 2024 road resurfacing program. The total amount for this year's program will be $2,586,000, $858.25. Are there any questions from council? Seeing none, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mr. Minor.
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes, this resolution has been approved. Moving to resolution number 2024-28, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2024-28, a resolution adopting the alternative tax budget information for the City of Mayfield Heights, State of Ohio, for the fiscal year 2025 and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Mr. Mano
Second.
and second by Mr. Belstrio. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Mr. Minor.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes, is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Minor and second by Mr. Mano. We heard from Mrs. Scully this evening. Are there any further questions for her regarding the tax budget information from the county? Okay. Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mr. Minor.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Resolution 2024-28 has been approved. Moving to resolution number 2024-29, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2024-29, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an amendment to the agreement with Glaus, Pyle, Schomer, Burns, and DeHaven, Inc., DBA GPD Group, to provide professional engineering services, including construction, administration, and observation for the Mayfield Heights 2024 sidewalk program and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Mr. Belstria,
Second.
second by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Minor.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Belstria and second by Mrs. Sabetta. Okay, this resolution is to authorize GPD Group to provide professional engineering services for 2024 road program in the amount not to exceed $16,446. Their services will involve providing construction management and observation services during the pre- and post-construction time. They will serve as a city liaison to the contractor and report anything that needs to be reported to the city's Public Works Department. The scope of the GPD services were outlined in a letter to all members of council that we all should have received. Are there any further questions or comments from council? Okay, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Balestrea?
Yes.
Mr. Minor?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. This resolution has been adopted. At this time, there was a recommendation to add resolution number 2024-30 to tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion to add this to the agenda? Moved by Mr. Minor
Second.
and second by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to add resolution 2024-30 to tonight's agenda.
Mr. Mano? Mr. Balestrea?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Minor?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Resolution number 2024-30, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution number 2024-30, a resolution declaring the real property known as Cuyahoga County Permanent Parcel Number 861-27-010, and also known as 1604 Lander Road, Mayfield Heights, Ohio, to be a nuisance, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract for the work necessary to abate the nuisance, and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Mr. Mano
Second.
and second by Mr. Balestrea. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Minor?
Yes.
Mr. Balestrea?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta? Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. Mano, second
Second.
by Mr. Minor. Discussions. We heard from the law director this evening about the property located on Lander Road. He also sent an email to us yesterday to go over this. Mayor, did you want to go over any of this for us? Or Mr. Murphy?
Yes, to give a brief summary, the fire department was called for a welfare check on the premises, and at the time they went out and found that the premises was in terrible disrepair. There was a lot of garbage and trash inside. They called the police department, and correct me if I miss any, to assist them in getting into the residence, and they found an individual who was incoherent, I guess would be the best term. So they transported her to the hospital, and then the building department got a search warrant to go in and look and found that the property really was in terrible disrepair. There's pictures that I attached to the memo that I sent out yesterday showing that the property cannot really be saved, although we're trying to find the owner of the property. It hasn't transferred title since 1973, so we're not even sure if any of the owners are still alive. But anyway, we're trying to do that, but Mr. Thomas and the mayor and I recommend that council adopt this resolution to give the administration the power to abate the nuisance, either by cleaning up the property or ultimately by raising the residents if necessary. And that's what the resolution provides for. For a work, it's estimated to be $50,000 or less, which would then be billed to the property owner and then ultimately placed on the tax duplicate as a lien on the property if it were not paid when due. Questions?
Mr. DeJohn?
Will there be any interest on that money if it doesn't get paid?
I think the
I mean,
county
so let's say we
ultimately does charge a late fee, and there is an interest component. Yes, the city doesn't charge the interest; the county does.
correct, yes, but we will get should it not be paid, right? Will be reimbursed plus.
We hopefully would be if there are no other liens on the property. Yes,
Is it possible we can possibly lose that money to abate the property?
it's possible, yeah, it's a lien on the property, but if the property is not worth, if it goes to sheriff's sale, for example, and it doesn't sell for more than $50,000, then, or whatever the city has invested in abating the nuisance, then conceivably that money could be lost. Or if there's other liens on the property. I haven't done the title report, so I can't tell. I kind of doubt it, because nothing's happened. I've checked the property records and I haven't found any action on the property, like I said, since 1973. So I doubt there's any type of mortgage or anything or any other lien.
Are the taxes up to date?
Yes, they were paid in January. Yep.
And why can't we find the owner of the property?
The owner was transported to Hillcrest, and the individual who was on the property was transported to Hillcrest. I'm not sure it was the owner. And then she was apparently released by Hillcrest, but we don't know where she ended up. She's not in the property. Maybe Mr. Thomas has found her, so I'll defer to him.
Just a quick update. We have located her.
Okay.
We're in the process of making communication. It just hasn't happened yet.
Have you posted the notice to?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you provide it to her?
No, because at the time we didn't know where she was at.
Oh, okay.
So we just posted it at the property.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Have you gotten complaints on this property, like, over the years from neighbors or people that live in?
No. Not one.
The last check was done in 2002, and at that time, the police checked on the property and found it in some disrepair, but nothing has happened since then until the neighbor, I think it was, to the south
Yeah.
called and said, I haven't seen anybody around and haven't seen the animals, the pets around, so maybe somebody should take a look. Yeah.
I think partly because you can't
That's when
you
the
can't
fire
see it.
department went out.
I think it's one more question.
Did
Unless
any
anyone
member of
else-
council have any questions first before I go back to Mr. DeJohn? Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Murphy, is this common where cities will go in and abate these properties like this? I know it's common for a city to go in and demolish a home, but to abate them and then put it on their tax returns, is this common for other cities?
Cities have the power to do it. Every city has an ordinance regarding nuisances, as well as there's also a state statute in the revised code regarding abating nuisances. And so every city has the power to do it. I'm not sure, yes, we have done it here on that Pato residence on Kingswood. Lyndhurst has done several. It comes up a lot with regard to hoarders, where it's a dangerous situation if there's a fire or a safety problem there, and the firefighters have a difficulty getting in because of the hoarding. Then you'll go in and abate that nuisance by clearing out the property. We've done it in Lyndhurst several times. There's also a nuisance, for example, if the roof is leaking or the siding is in disrepair, yes, cities will go in and perform that and then place the cost of abating the nuisance on the tax duplicate. It's an extreme measure, but it is, I'm sure every city has done it at some point.
Mr. Murphy, I have a question. How many nuisance calls does a person get before the city cites them?
Could be one.
How many chances? It could be one. This was one.
This was one. This was an extreme situation.
Right.
it's a case-by-case basis as we come across them.
Right.
Typically, our goal is to work with everybody and try to gain some level of compliance, but in extreme circumstances like this, you really don't have much of a choice. We don't have anybody to work with. We just now located the property owner. We're not sure of the condition of the property owner, so we really don't have a whole lot of a choice with this one.
Thank you. Mr. Minor?
The abatement that we're discussing in this resolution, is that going to happen outside of the home, or are we talking inside the home only? Are there things outside of the home that the city needs to be cognizant of, or?
Conceivably, but in this case, the inside of the home is the big problem that needs to be addressed immediately. And then once that's addressed, then the mayor will look at what else needs to be done. The property is terribly overgrown. You can't even see the house from the street. So, once work is started, then, conceivably it would be expanded to cut the grass, trim the bushes. There's a number of programs that, where the city will cut the grass if nobody's cutting the grass.
Madam President.
Mr. Oh, I'm sorry. Mayor?
I think what it needs to happen is the home itself needs to be evaluated. Once we get the opportunity to do that, we can figure what our next steps are going to be. Is it going to be, the house absolutely needs to be clean, but structurally, is it intact? Is it salvageable? So that's why kind of the resolution kind of states it. There's no real solution in the resolution. We just need to look at the issue and see what the abatement will be.
Mr. Murphy?
Conceivably, you'd be able to come in and, maybe clear out the house. And, this clearly was a hoarder, but there's a lot of trash and garbage. So you could come in and clear that out. But I think Mr. Thomas maybe could elaborate on that. There is mold and other things in the house that, might make the house not worth saving and just, tear the thing down. I think that's where that's going to go. The pictures are self-explanatory.
Mr. Minor?
So I was just thinking, if that is the case, our abatement would either be to raise the property, as you just said, or let this person put it up for sale and let the buyer deal with the clean out and all of that other stuff as a flip property. I'm just saying, I was thinking along the lines of Bob's line of questioning, because I don't know if we'll get a benefit out of that abatement based on the pictures in our conversation right now, because we haven't had any nuisance calls.
It's clearly a nuisance just because there haven't been any calls. The administration has gone out, and I think the fire department, the police department, and the building department will all concur that it probably needs to come down. But just in case it could be cleared out, that the resolution is written broadly enough where it's going to be up to the administration to decide what needs to be done in order to abate the nuisance.
Mr. DeJohn?
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Thomas, your initial impression by going through that property, just a guesstimate to abate it.
So the law director might have a different interpretation, but when I'm talking about abating a nuisance, I'm talking about tearing the house down, the whole lot.
And how much
Something
would
like
that
that
cost?
is going to run in between $30,000 and $50,000.
How much?
In between $30,000 and $50,000 to tear it down. But that's not taking into consideration how much it's going to cost to get rid of the trees and stuff that are in the front yard.
So that cost used to be around $12,000. Is it gone up that much?
Yeah, the last time I got a round of estimates to tear a house down, it was roughly 30 to 50.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Are we still involved with the land bank? Do they have anything to do with this type of
So
discussion?
we are, but we don't own the property.
Okay.
So we own a property just at the end of our back parking lot here, which is slated to be torn down this year. But with this one, we don't own it, so there's no assistance there unless we claimed ownership of the property.
Mr. Murphy?
We are involved with the land bank, but we only get involved when the land bank is coming upon a property that is being foreclosed for non-payment of taxes. Then they'll ask us, do you want this property? And I will respond, yes, we want it, or no, we don't. Some of them are really unusable properties. But I just did one where we said, yes, we would like the property, if it is foreclosed for, and it does go to sheriff's sale, would like it. But, you know, that's a long road, because if somebody wants to buy it at sheriff's sale, then they'll get to buy it. It's just the properties that nobody wants that the land bank ends up with. There's a couple of them. There's probably 10, maybe 12 in Mayfield Heights. Maybe more. I'm not sure.
One of the issues that we run into is that if we don't know about something, we don't know about something. But once we're made aware of it, we have a responsibility to act, and that's kind of the situation that we're in right now.
Okay. Any further questions? All right. Thank you, Braden. Okay. This time, I will call for roll call on the motion to approve.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Minor?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Balestria?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Resolution 2024-30 has been approved. This evening, we have no ordinances on the agenda. We will then move to motions, beginning with motion A. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A motion to approve the preliminary site plan for a new 6,757 square foot, single-story building for Dr. Shear Smiles Dental Building located at 30071 Cedar Road.
Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mrs. Sabetta and second by Mr. Minor. This motion is a preliminary site plan for the new dental office to be built on Cedar. Are there any questions from council? Okay, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Balestria?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn?
Yes.
Mr. Minor?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes. Motion A has now been approved. Is there any new business or comments from council? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Minor and second by Mrs. Sabetta. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everyone. We are now adjourned.